All right, everybody. This next video, there's gonna be a lot going on here. Um, it's not because it's overly complicated. It's just because there's a lot of terms. So please take a step back and just try to read through this one step at a time and make sure you understand what each term means. Try your best not to just memorize, because if you try to memorize, it's going to be a lot. If you take your time and understand the terms, it's honestly not too bad. But those are the two ways to do this. So I suggest taking your time here. Before we even talk about all the terms that we're going to be going through, let's just talk about what we know as humans, right? So at this point, you probably already know what I'm about to say, and that is your heart pumps blood around your body. Great. If we know that, then we can ask ourselves, why? There are two reasons why. Reason one, to give all of the tissues in your body oxygen, right? So your blood is going to circulate your whole body to give your body oxygen and other things like remove waste products and move hormones and all that stuff. But right now, let's just focus on oxygen, right? That's number one. We move oxygen to all the tissues. But there's also the second part of it that sometimes we overlook, and that is getting rid of the CO2, right? So not only are we bringing oxygen to tissues like, let's say, our brain, right? Or our arms, or our bones, wherever you want to talk about. We also take CO2 away from those areas and we bring them back to the heart. And then we deliver them to the lungs. So, with that said, there are two major loops in the body we'd like to talk about. Loop number one, we call the systemic loop. So, systemic is the whole body. This is where you move oxygenated blood to the body. This is everywhere in the body you can imagine that needs oxygen, which is everything. Right? So, this goes all over the place. The second loop is going to be the pulmonary, which is your lungs. This is the loop everyone forgets about. This is the part where you go to the lungs to drop off CO2 and pick up oxygen. So you have oxygen to actually do the systemic loop. All right, so just keep that in mind. There's two parts to the heart. So if there's two major roles of the heart, we can divide the heart into two parts. And that's exactly what we do here. Follow my green line. Left and right hand side. This is why we have a left atrium and a right atrium, a left ventricle and a right ventricle. This is why there's two sides to your heart, because one side focuses on the pulmonary end of it, which is bringing the deoxygenated blood. So this is going to be the low oxygen, and this is going to bring it to the lungs. And then the other side, which I'll do in let's say yellow, the left side of your heart is going to be used because you have oxygen, and now you can deliver the oxygen throughout the body. All right, so just keep that in mind. This is why we do it. Now, with that said, let's follow the path. This first part of the video is following the path, and then the second part, we're going to follow the path using all of the terms that we used from the last two videos. All right, here we go. Let's go in green, because green seems like the best color for this. You start, I don't know, let's say we start right here. In any of these places. And there could be other places too. It could be the brain. It could be your heart itself. Your heart needs oxygen. It could be, like you said, the kidneys right here. It could be the lower part of the body. It could be your digestive system. It could be your eyes. Pick any part of your body, all right? And that part of the body just got oxygen and now dropped off CO2 onto the red blood cells. So now the red blood cells have CO2, which means we now have low oxygen and high CO2 levels. We got to get rid of this. We don't want CO2. We want oxygen. So now all of those veins, notice how I say veins, they are all veins here in this case. All these veins are bringing blood back to the heart. There are three main veins that bring blood back to the heart, and you'll see those in the next part of this video. Once that blood gets back to the right atrium, it's going to go through the mitral valve and into the right ventricle. So now we have blood in the right ventricle. Then we're going to move through the pulmonary semilunar valve and into the pulmonary artery. Arteries move blood away from heart. Away. A for away. Arteries move away. So in this case, the pulmonary artery is going to bring this deoxygenated blood to the lungs. In the lungs, things switch up. Now we're going to have high oxygen levels and low CO2 levels because we just switched them off. And now we can continue. The lungs are now going to go back to the heart. Let me use a different color here. They're going to go back to the heart and enter the left atrium. From the left atrium, they go through the bicuspid valve into the left ventricle, and then from the left ventricle through the aortic semilunar valve into the aorta, and from the aorta all throughout the body through a variety of arteries that eventually lead to every part of your body. Some go to the head and upper limbs, some go to the lower end of the body, digestive tract, kidneys, etc. From here, that oxygenated blood is going to switch with the cells for cellular respiration, and then we restart the process. But now you can see why there's two sides to this, right? You need oxygen, get rid of CO2, and then you deliver that oxygen and pick up CO2, and then you just do it again. So there's two loops: pulmonary circuit, systemic circuit. And now that brings us to the next couple of slides. I'm going to go quick through these only because I just said it all. And this is just another way to look at it. It's all the same stuff we just went over, right? So what were those veins that I was talking about? What delivers the blood back to the heart? Those veins. Here's the three major ones. We have two of them are vena cava. We have the superior vena cava, which superior means above, and inferior vena cava, which means below. So the superior one brings all the blood from the top of the body, inferior from the bottom. Kind of nice. We also have the coronary sinus. Coronary has to do with the heart. This throws people off. Your heart's job is to pump blood throughout the body. In order to pump blood throughout the body, you need energy, which means your heart needs to do cellular respiration. So if your heart needs to do cellular respiration, it needs oxygen. So your heart has its own blood supply. It's kind of weird, but your heart pumps blood to itself as well as to the rest of the body. So how does it get back? Coronary sinus. Right? From here, all the stuff we discussed. It goes to the right atrium, through the tricuspid valve, goes into the right ventricle, goes through the pulmonary semilunar valve, and then it goes through the pulmonary trunk to, as you can see in the next slide, the right and left pulmonary arteries, which deliver them to the right and left lungs. Now we are officially halfway through what we talked about in the last slide. From here, we are going to jump into the right and left pulmonary veins. Remember, veins bring blood to the heart. So the right and left pulmonary veins, these are the lung veins. They bring them back to the heart with oxygen to the left atrium. From the left atrium, we go to the left ventricle, but first we got to pass through the bicuspid valve. Once we go through the bicuspid valve, get to the left ventricle. From the left ventricle, we go through the aortic semilunar valve. And then we are in the aorta where we go to the rest of the body. And then it just restarts. So, at this point, if you have any questions, here's the whole thing again. If you have any questions, please let me know. But please take your time on this. Go through the terms because it's easy to trip them up. So take your time. If you have any questions, let me know.